Okay, so this next subject matter is super important, right? It's probably one of the most commonly used syntax in robotics. We're going to introduce the concept of if and else if, all right? We're going to use it all the time when you get to the robot. If your robot sees a wall, well, I need to turn. If a robot sees an edge, well, I need to back up and turn. If a robot sees another robot, well, I need to attack. So if is a really strong, powerful command that we need to be able to understand how to use. And sadly, it can get complicated, and we'll get into that as we move along. But let's start with something super simple, all right? So I'm going to take and build onto this existing sketch. I'm going to change it to, I already changed that. I'm just going to add another function right below it. And I'll call it demo2. So what I want to do is I want to be able to turn on one of these lights. So let me save this. I'm going to save as, and I'm going to call it, instead of intro to digital read, I'll call it introToIf. Okay. So introToIf. So what I want to do is turn on the light. Now let's not forget that if you're following along in the sequence that I've been playing with, I've already got my LED defined. It's hooked up to pins 0, 1, and 2, my tricolor LED. I have all those pins set to output, so it's ready to go. So all I need to do is make a decision based upon the state of this button. You saw in the last one that if I was, it's actually probably still running right here, right? I push the button and it goes to 0. I let up, it goes to 1. Okay? I don't think we're going to use that serial port anymore. We can close it out. So let's take and do a simple if statement. Something super easy. All right? Let's just take and we'll take this demo2. We're still going to collect the data. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that. So the way the syntax works is if, okay, open parentheses, the variable we're collecting the data in is val, all right? And this is super important, all right? If I said val equal to 1 or equal to 0, it actually would make val equal to 1 or equal to 0. I'm asking if it's 1 or 0. And I have to use a slightly different syntax. I have to use a double equal for that purpose. I'm asking, is it equate to? Okay? And I'm going to say 0 because you noticed when the button was not being depressed, it was a 1. And when I did depress it, it was a 0. Let's open a brace and hit enter. And now we've got a little chunk of code here. And I'm going to tidy it. So what do we want to do? If we push the button, let's turn on the red LED. So let's do a digital write. And we want to digital write the red LED high. Okay, that seems simple enough. Let's run demo2. And see what happens. And it looks like it should work. Load it up. Done uploading. Push the button. And it lights up. But, okay, well that's kind of cool, but I can't seem to turn it off, okay? It's because it's going to stay running until I explicitly tell it otherwise. So the other way to look at it is like, well, I guess that the easiest way to do this, although it's certainly not the best, but we'll do it anyway, is we'll flip this and say that if it's a 1, we'll make it equal low. Tidy my code, and I will load this up, and you can see that now it should work, whereas I push it, it turns on, turns off, turns on, turns off. Okay? So that is your sort of simplest way to do it logically, but it's certainly not the best. And what I'm going to do now is pause it briefly and set up for a better way. I'm going to comment my code too, so it'll be available when you view my code. So hold on a second. Okay, so let's write a little bit better code. All right, and it's only slightly better, but it's still much. It's nice. All right, so let's take this, copy it, and we'll paste it right there. And I'm going to call this demo 3. And I'm going to call this demo 3. So, I mean, a button, for heaven's sakes, it only has 2 states, on or off, right? Yes, no, true, false. And so when I push it, the alternative is going to be, well, it's not being pushed. So that I really don't have to do what I've done here. I have an if and an if. It's really more of an if and an else. Okay? So it's either pushed or it's not pushed. That's all there is to it. So the simplest change to do is to get rid of this second if. It just slows it down. Because what happens is if this is true, let's say this is false. We'll start off with, let's say it's true. Then, of course, it's going to turn it on. And then it's still going to check to see if this is true as well, if it's equal to 1. And it's going to say, oh, it's not, so it's going to skip it. So it's going to do both of these regardless of state. All right? Now, if I change this to an else, all right, and notice I don't have any parentheses. I don't have any condition because it's either this or that. I mean, I don't have to give another condition. This is sort of my catch-all for whatever's happening within my if statement. So it's either this or it's everything else. Okay? So in this case, if it's true, if this condition is true, it doesn't even go there. It just cuts it off. It's like, that's it, I'm done. All right? And it can save time when you're having very long decision processes. In this case, well, we only have 2, which is, if or else, and that's the only condition. But we'll actually do something that has other conditions, and you'll see what I mean. So there's no reason to actually have this delay because I'm not printing anything. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that. And then I'll come up here and I'll run demo 3. Keep in mind that delay is super important if you're printing something. If not, it'll just fill up your buffer and your computer will kind of slow down and potentially crash. So now we have just an if and an else. So if I load this, you'll see that it works just great. All right, but now we've reduced it down to just 2 states. Okay, so let me pause this for a brief moment. I'll set up for the next one. Okay, so this next one actually is just a cool demonstration of how you'd use a Boolean. Remember, a Boolean is just true and false. And so we have a button. It's either on or off or it's true and false. So let me just rewrite this in a Boolean state. So if I copy this and paste it, I'm not going to change very much at all. So this will be quick. Make this demo 4. Make this demo 4. And I'm going to change this into a Boolean or a bool. Okay? So now I'm not looking for 1s and 0s. I'm actually looking for true and false. So if I type this as false, which is the same as a 0 essentially functionally, we should get the same basic functionality. So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to run demo 4. And comment out demo 3. And we should see that it works exactly the same. It's just now we switched it to a Boolean. So this is really demonstrative more than anything. And if I do that, I'll be danged, it's exactly the same. Okay? So it works great. All right, give me a moment. I'll be right back with you. All right, so let me show you some shortcuts that you can actually do, which are kind of cool. This is actually not going to be so much if-then or if-then statements or if-else or whatever. It's going to be just taking advantage of what 1 and 0 actually mean. So if I copy this, actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to copy this because I want to deal with an integer. I'm more interested in the 1 and the 0. I'm going to make this demo 5, and I'm going to make this demo 5. Okay. So now keep in mind, I've switched back over to the fact that I'm collecting value as an integer, so it's a 0 or a 1. Well, wait, 0 or 1, that is the same as high and low. So I suppose that means that I could actually get rid of all of this stuff. And simply write this, I collect the data, and simply write this as val, because remember val is either a 1 or a 0. But wait, hold on. I think, if I recall, that the default was on, because if you didn't push the button, it was a 1, and if you did push the button, it was a 0. 0 would turn the light off. 1 would turn the light on, which would mean the default would be on. Well, I don't want the button to be on, but oh, you know what? I'll tell you what. I'm going to demonstrate it. Let's tidy this code. Let's just run it, and you'll see what I mean, and then I'll show you how we fix it, or how we invert the logic. So let's come up here to demo 4. We're going to take and call this demo 5. Demo 5. Okay, and run it, and you'll see what I mean. So the light's going to turn on right away because it's currently running a 1, and it's going to go off like that. Okay, I push the button, it goes off. Well, that's the exact opposite of what I really want to do. So to invert the logic, all I have to do is call the not command. So if I put a exclamation point in front of it, it's actually going to not it. It's going to flip it. It's going to invert it, right? When it's not something, okay? So when I load this now, it's going to invert that logic. And you're going to see that it works by pushing the button. All right. So let's get set up for the next one. All right, so this is actually going to be more of a challenge. I'll show you how I do it, but I want to challenge those of you who are really kind of into this a little bit, and you like computer programming and robotics, and you're looking for sort of that personal challenge. Just take a couple minutes. What I want you to do is I want you to write a piece of code that does everything that we've done, turn on and off the light, with just one line of code. Okay, it's not that hard, but see if you can do it. So at this moment, if you want to just take the challenge, pause, but I will be right back, and I will actually explain how I did it, and I'll put some code down. So pause it now, give it a try. If you don't want to just pause it, just keep watching, because I'm going to do it. Okay, here we go. That's enough time. So I'm actually going to copy it, because I actually have done it already. I've got it on the side over here. This is what I did to do it in one line. I took a digital write, sent it to the LED, and then it did a digital read and inverted it. And that will actually do it. I'm going to get rid of that comment there. That will do it in one line. So if I run the one-liner, which I will do, which I've already called in my loop, you will see that it works with just one line of code. Okay, I'll see you soon.